The instant you understand that your life's work is about to be handed to someone who cannot tell a compound from a cleaning solution, something inside you hardens. I watched Marcus Reed walk through our lab's glass doors like he already owned the floor beneath our feet. He was the CEO's son-in-law, dressed in a suit worth more than my mortgage payment, and utterly ignorant of what medicine actually required. My name is Eleanor Voss, and I had poured nearly 20 years into Meridian Pharma Labs. I joined at 22 as a junior compounding chemist, back when the company was a modest independent outfit building custom treatments for patients with rare disorders. We measured out precise liquid doses for children and formulated alternatives for elderly patients whose systems couldn't tolerate standard mass-produced tablets. The work was grueling, but it mattered to real families in our community. Everything changed the day Marcus was named Chief Operating Officer. No posting, no interview, no vote. He took the seat once held by my mentor of a decade, Margaret, who cleared out her office without a word of protest. Marcus's resume was hospitality management, 5-star hotels, which meant he understood nothing about sterile facilities or federal compliance standards. Still, he stood before our specialized team and announced we were pivoting toward market domination. In his opening staff meeting, Marcus unveiled a new output schedule demanding a 40% production increase within half a year. Walter, our senior lab technician with 15 years of equipment calibration under his belt, raised his hand immediately to flag the danger. He warned that our cleanroom capacity simply could not absorb that volume without serious risk of cross-contamination. Marcus just smiled and told him to let go of his limiting mindset. By the time autumn faded, conditions inside the building had become genuinely unsafe. Marcus dismantled our safety infrastructure piece by piece, scrapping the pre-batch verification process that had protected our patients for over 10 years. He waved it off as bureaucratic drag holding back growth. I filed written warning after written warning about the mounting risks, and everyone vanished into his new streamlined chain of command. The blow landed on a gray, rainy Tuesday when I was called up to the executive floor. Marcus sat behind a polished mahogany desk that used to belong to Margaret, a glossy poster about disruption hanging behind him. He didn't invite me to sit before sliding a thick envelope across the surface. In a flat voice, he informed me my position as lead chemist was being eliminated as part of a restructuring. I stared at the papers, understanding that 19 years of accumulated expertise meant nothing to him. I had pulled this lab back from the edge of bankruptcy, worked through every holiday, trained every technician on that floor. Rather than break down, I met his eyes and asked whether he'd actually reviewed the intellectual property terms in my original contract. He smirked and said HR had it covered. I returned to my station, packed my belongings into one small box, and left without a scene. I refused to give him tears, because men like Marcus feed on visible pain. Walter caught me near the exit and pulled me into a quiet hug, his face heavy with worry for what came next. Driving home, a strange calm settled over me. What Marcus never bothered to learn was a piece of my history from before my marriage. During my honors year at university, I had developed an original stability testing formula for combining unstable pharmaceutical compounds safely, filed under my maiden name, Eleanor Cross. I held the private patent on that mathematical model, the same one that lets small labs blend volatile active ingredients without danger. When I was hired at Meridian, the founding director discovered my patent and signed a formal licensing deal for its use. That agreement had been renewed quietly every few years, and it was set to lapse in exactly 2 months. Because I'd built my entire career under my married name, Marcus never once connected his fired chemist to the woman who owned the technology running his lab. My formula was embedded in their testing software, their manufacturing standards, even their state medical licensing filings. Strip it away, and their production line would be forced to a legal standstill. Rather than chase revenge, I went home, made a pot of tea, and called my attorney of many years. Together, we pulled the original patent filings and drafted a formal non-renewal notice for corporate legal. The letter stated plainly that any continued use of the cross-stability protocols past December 31st would trigger immediate federal patent litigation. The reaction inside the company was instant chaos once that notice reached CEO Gerald Reed's desk. Walter texted me days later that leadership was scrambling, tearing through old records trying to find my contact information. Their newly hired technical director explained that removing my formula would mean years of retesting and a full regulatory overhaul. Marcus had plenty of confidence, but none of the competence to back it. In early January, my lawyer and I sat across a long conference table from Gerald Reed and his legal team. Marcus was nowhere in sight, having been shut out of the meeting entirely. The executives looked hollowed out, aware they held no cards left to play. Over several hours, we negotiated a new licensing contract valuing my intellectual property at its real market worth, 10 times the original sum. I never wanted to burn the company to the ground because actual patients still depended on those custom formulations daily. So I made full restoration of our original safety protocols a hard condition of the deal. The new technical director agreed on the spot, admitting he'd been quietly battling Marcus over those same protections for months. Marcus resigned the following month and left the industry altogether. Months later, I was asked to give the keynote address at a national pharmaceutical conference on protecting intellectual property. Standing before a packed room of colleagues, I spoke about defending your own innovations from corporate greed and about executives who confuse tenure with obsolescence, discarding the very people holding the system together. Afterward, a line of young women in the field came up to thank me for telling my story. I'm 50 now, and my patent is licensed across nearly a dozen manufacturing facilities nationwide. I still consult for these labs, making sure patient safety never slips again. Not long ago, I received a handwritten letter from a mother whose daughter depends on our custom compound to stay alive. Knowing that child is thriving outweighs any title or corner office I ever lost. When people underestimate you, they hand you an advantage because they never see what's coming. Marcus looked at me and saw a line item easy to cut for a better margin. His certainty in his own superiority is exactly what dragged him down. My name is Eleanor Voss Cross, and I learned that some legacies are carved in stone, while arrogant men are only ever passing through.